Hello, Guitar Smarts fans. Before you check out this podcast, I want to make you aware of a cool new place where you can interact with other Guitar Smarts listeners. It's a Facebook group called the Guitar Geek Hangout. That's where we hang out and talk about all things guitar. So, if you like the Guitar Smarts podcast, come and chat with Kiran and myself over in the Guitar Geek Hangout on Facebook. Maybe check out some pre-podcast clips and even get involved in asking and answering lots of questions from the other page dwellers. Hope to see you there.
You literally just chop and change your tubes like a light bulb, and the amp takes care of biasing them for you. So you can put whatever tubes in and mix and match to your heart's content. How cool is that?
Sold. Sold.
And it's 350 quid.
That's crazy. Greetings. Welcome to another Guitar Smarts podcast. Thanks very much for joining us. Now, I want to start this episode's announcement just by reiterating what we mentioned on social media recently, which is that we've decided to reduce the output of the podcast to once every other week rather than weekly. And the reason for this is to give us more time to put effort into growing the podcast itself. We work really hard to make sure we meet every week and we create some content so that we can put a podcast out every week, and that takes time and effort around our full-time jobs. And our full-time jobs can be quite busy at times, and the things we want to do around the podcast to grow the podcast, to help market it better and to help to get it into more ears of more guitarists like yourself listening, we don't have much time for that. So we're going to put the podcast out once every other week now, but put more effort in that spare time that we've created to really help get the podcast out to more people. So this week, Kiran and I are talking about budget guitar amplifiers, specifically the kind of amplifier that you can gig with. So if you're new to gigging and new to playing guitar and you want to get out there and jam with some people, this is a good one for you. This is spend a few £100 on, a decent gigging guitar amp. It doesn't have to be valve amp or digital or transistor. It could be anything you like, but we're looking at what we think are the best value amps there at around the £400, $500-600 mark. Anyway, if you like what you hear, remember to subscribe and like the podcast in your favourite podcast app. That way you get the reminder when a new podcast is out from Guitar Smarts. And if you just jump into the show notes, the description on this podcast, you'll be able to find a whole load of links to different things like our Buy Me a Coffee page, where you can go and look at our Etsy store for merchandise. You can find some links to where you can leave us a good rating or a review on some of the other podcast platforms that are out there that really help us to get ourselves into the algorithm a little bit better and help us to get to more ears of listeners like yourself. But have a look down there in the description of some of those links. Maybe you'll find something interesting. Anyway, that's enough waffle from me, much more waffle than usual. Let's get to it. Oh, I'm just going to have a little read here of my...
Oh, look at this.
Look at this on the back. Do you remember this? This Encore, when Encore released a Donley Sensor Strat for like £200.
Right, are we starting now?
We're started. We're started. I'll make it... I'll edit. It'll be a rough start.
You won't be able to. This first 5 minutes it's just been carnage.
Let's just throw a little hello in here. Hello, Kiran. How you doing, mate?
Oh, mate, I'm in such good spirits. Why are we laughing so much? Well, because we just said, look, let's hold back on our little catch up and everything and get recording first. And then we've just spent the last 5 to 10 minutes just talking absolute nonsense at each other and making each other laugh. So yeah, we better bring ourselves together and have another amazing podcast episode. Where do we begin? Today?
Where do we begin? Well, we usually talk about the week, don't we? But guitar-wise for me, I don't know about you, I haven't touched my guitar this week just because work's been so busy, but I do have other guitar-related things to discuss that have happened this week, which is cool.
I know. You've got some exciting discoveries, some trips down memory lane. There's all kinds of cool stuff coming from you. I can feel it.
Well, do you know, I do you remember when we were talking the other week about the future of guitar? And I mentioned, like, I wondered what was the past of guitar, and I kind of tried to figure out what was in the first guitar magazine I ever bought as a student guitarist. Well, I found it on eBay. And I managed to, it wasn't on its own. I actually had to buy it as a stack of 6 or 5 magazines, but they're all from the year 1996. So I've got like this one here with Supergrass on. There's a Metallica one.
All guitar magazines then, not like Good Housekeeping or Gardener's World.
Well, get this, the guy I've bought them from is hilarious because he messaged me saying, yeah, I'll get these sent over to you, thanks for buying them. And I got them from a bargain, really. I mean, I got like 6 almost mint magazines for like 18 quid. They've been looked after with the CDs unscratched. I kind of think that's a bargain, really, for somebody who's looked after them. They're worth that to me,
Yeah, sentimental value alone of reliving your youth through those fun pages.
So the guy messages me saying, yeah, they're on the way, and then he messaged me again saying, oh, I found this. I chucked this in for you, and it was the FHM 1996 100 Most Attractive Women.
Brilliant.
Like, what are you doing? Okay. And then he says, and then like with a winky face, sent this for you as well, just getting rid of this. Okay.
Oh God, what's coming next?
And then he sends me a picture of I don't know which number she is in the thing, but it was Lightning from the Gladiators. Just saying, oh, here's a little picture of Lightning for you. I'm like, who are you? Who are you, this crazy person? This crazy eBay man who I've found? It's like, I'm not your mate. You can't just burst into conversation with me about women you're seeing in an FHM. But anyway, it was funny.
That's brilliant. You go out to go and buy one nostalgic copy of Total Guitar to relive your childhood, and you get a whole load of smutty magazines sent to you. I mean, the luck you have. I mean, I don't know how this stuff happens to you. Right?
Yeah.
It's
just I don't know either. It just goes to show you that there are fantastic people out there in the world. Just
they really are generous
guitar
people.
Magazines on eBay.
Generous people. So we're going to have to get into that guitar magazine in a minute and have some highlights. So that's cool.
How's your week been?
Yeah, man. It's been full on and busy. It's flown by in a really good way though. I don't know, mate. I haven't worked through all of the things that I needed to do, so I'm feeling a little bit anxious, but that's okay. So guitar wise, I had a Squire Strat on the bench this week. Needed a full overhaul, but that's gone really well. That's finished. That's getting picked up today. It's I learned something new. Every day's a school day.
Oh, what did you do?
Well, the gent who bought me this guitar, he'd already installed a set of Iron Gear pickups after listening to our show and hearing what we thought of these pickups. So it's a Squire Strat, Chinese made, really pretty cool guitar, a lovely neck and fingerboard on it. He put the pickups in, and there was a little bit of issues going on with the tone wiring and the tone pots, but nothing that couldn't be fixed. So anyway, I was in the process of fixing that all, and one of the tone pots was completely shot. Anyway, that was why we were having issues with it. It just completely gone. So I had to replace that. So in the process of me taking out that pot, I realised that it was a 500k pot, and I thought, oh, that's weird. Why is there a 500k pot in a SSS or single coil guitar? Normally you see 250k pots. I mean, it's not an exact science. There is no definitive, you must have 250k pots in a Strat, and 500k pots in humbucker guitars. But it's a general rule of thumb, and certainly it's kind of my preference as a starting point for if you're going to mod guitars and put new pickups in. So anyway, it turns out that all Squire guitars come with 500k pots. It's standard because of the ceramic pickups that they put in, so it kind of works for that. But I had to break the news to the guy that wasn't going to really work very nicely with his new Iron Gear pickup. So I've had to do a full rewire on that, put in a new set of 250k pots, set it all up again. But it's turned out beautiful. My God, these pickups sound ridiculous, mate.
Really?
I'm so impressed.
What are they called? Which mod?
So he's put the Texas Loco in the bridge, in the neck and the middle, that kind of Texas overwound thing. I've had to dial them right back to be level with the scratch plate because they're so high output. Yeah. Otherwise, they just saturate too much. But if you do that and hit that sweet spot, they sound great. And then he's put a single coil pig iron, it's called, in the bridge. And that, I mean, it sounds like it's going to be really too aggressive, but it's not. It's just got a beautiful, really usable bridge pickup sound, not ice picky at all. And that set it works really well. So that's getting picked up today. That's all gone well. Done a telly this week as well. Pretty straightforward setup, but needed a new jack socket soldering into it. The old jack socket had ceased to exist. So there's that, and then there's 2 more guitars that need doing. But I've got my first rehearsal with this new band tomorrow, and my kind of promise to myself was, right, every day this week, just run through the songs that I've learned and just get the arrangements really locked in my head. I mean, I've learnt the songs in terms of I know how to play them, but it's that last bit of making sure that the arrangement is kind of cemented in your head, so you're not kind of having to listen to other instruments for the changes or the cue or the overall structure. Just you're driving it, because it's a 1 guitar band, and I haven't done any of it this week. I've just been too busy with work and doing these setups. So I've basically got tonight to get 40 odd songs into my brain properly before this rehearsal tomorrow. So,
you're just going to push one in and push it out again with like the next song that goes
in.
You're just going to be like,
That's the problem, man. When you hit a certain age, like when I was a kid, my brain was like a jukebox when it came to guitar. People could just say, do you know this? And I'd just, flick through in the brain, there it was, and out it would come with no thought. Now it's like the jukebox is somewhere in the back of the shed covered in loads of rubbish, so it just takes longer to find everything.
Exactly that. I'm like that now. If I get a dep gig in the diary, usually a month or 2 before, I'm kind of like, hey, what's the set list? And sometimes I'll get like a cavalier answer like, oh, we'll sort that out on the week or on the night, and I'm like, no, you won't.
Standard function stuff is the answer that comes back. You'll know it all. Don't worry, you'll know it all.
Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. If you're a professional outfit, you've probably got a set list. You can dictate a set list to your band of depths. You can do what you can now to enable the people you're gigging with to be more prepared, or you can just say, oh, we'll figure it out on the night. That's fine as well, but it's your fault if I don't know the song and can't play it. It's difficult though, isn't it, to have to learn so much stuff all in one go. How do you do that? How do you, my tip to you would be to do as much on the guitar tonight as you do on paper. Write stuff down. Write everything you learn, your arrangements. Write it down. Find a quick way of charting things out. So firstly, if you think, I'm going to practice this song, I'm going to play a little bit along, but I'm mainly going to write down a chart. And then next time I play along, I'm going to follow the chart. And then the next time I play along, I'm not going to follow the chart. And I reckon you'll find things will stick in quicker if you do a mixed process of writing and playing.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, a lot of the songs I kind of know, but it's a refresher on a lot of it. And some of it's brand new. I've had to bloody learn Mr. Brightside again, which our favourite.
I feel for you. I have like feelings of pain for you, and it's well, anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, it'll be fine. I do know the songs. It's just the arrangement. So it's going to get to that point of the evening tonight at some point where I'm just going to go, fuck. But I've got 2 rehearsals. I've got this week and I've got next week before the first gig. So I have actually got 2 weeks still before the first gig, but I obviously want to make sure that I suitably impress tomorrow at the first rehearsal. You don't want to turn up and just not know your stuff. But it won't be the case. I know enough of it.
Fantastic. Yeah, you'll be right. You'll be right, as we say up north.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I've played Superstition once or twice before.
Just make some jokes to make them feel happy. When they turn to go Superstition, just say, "Oh no, I'm not into all that stuff." Or
what song's that? Just play something different. Just start playing Sweet Child of Mine or something. Yeah. Is that not that one?
Can I talk about this magazine?
Oh, let's talk about this guitar magazine. So you sent me a picture of it through, and immediately I didn't ever have that issue, but still the wave of nostalgia that washed over me when I saw that front cover with some of the publishers' particular font styles and little graphics that they used to do back in the day on every issue, whatever you want to call it. I was just like, I want to read it. But you're gonna save me the hassle, and you're gonna tell me.
I used to read these things like I used to go through. I remember reading things like even the contacts of the people who make the magazine. That's how in depth I used to read these things. I'm like, oh my god, Jimmy Savage! I remember Jimmy Savage. He used to do loads of the tech videos and stuff like that. But even things like this has made me feel nostalgic. Like, look at the advertisement for Boss's brand new ME8, floorboard and stuff like this.
Multiple effects. The Boss ME8.
The Boss ME8.
They don't make effects pedals like that anymore, do they?
Yeah. Hey, this gives you an idea of how old this is, right? Do you know who was voted best new guitarist? Best new guitarist.
So what episode and year? I keep saying episode. What issue and year is this particular Total Guitar magazine?
Yeah, Total Guitar in the UK. This is episode.
See what Netflix has done to us. Netflix has just ruined our vocabulary.
Everything's an episode now. So this is issue 14, and it is from January 1996. 1996. This magazine itself has just turned 26 years old. Unbelievable. It could have kids. It could have little baby magazines, by now. Be married off to another. I mean, Total Guitar magazine. What would Total Guitar magazine marry if it was a person? I don't know.
FHM.
I don't know. Well, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Stop. So the best new guitarist of 1996 was Noel Gallagher.
Noel Gallagher.
Oasis. He was a new guitarist, new on the block. And, 26 years later, and he's still an absolute legend. Best new band of 1995, Supergrass. Best amplifier, the Carlsbro JLX 80S. Runners-up, Fender Twin and the Marshall Valstate 8080. That was a classic.
I used to love the 8080.
That was a classic amp, yeah.
I couldn't afford the 8080. Was the 8080 two 1x12s in it? Or I can't remember. I think it was. I think it was. I had the 40, which this is very topical because we're going to talk about budget amplifiers in a minute.
We are, yeah.
But that was my first guitar amplifier, the Marshall Valstate 4040, and all I wanted was the 8080 because the 4040 just didn't have enough headroom on it.
But, no, you're right. The 8080, I think they still had. When I went to ACM, that my first year at ACM was 2003, going into 2004, that academic year, and the teaching rooms there still they had a mixture of amplifiers. And they had a lot of Fender Hot Rod Deluxes and a lot of Marshall Valstate 8080s. And there was a lot of teachers that went for the 8080s above the Fender Deluxes. And they sounded fantastic, especially the shreddier guys, Anyway, I went straight to this as well. Price list.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that shop. I remember that.
Axmel. It was fantastic. The famous interest-free experts in exports. Most goods delivered to your door in 24 hours. Should we talk about prices? Should we talk about prices of guitars quickly?
So 26 years ago, what could you? So I seem to remember that you could get a full fat Gibson Les Paul for less than £1,000, like 900 and something pounds.
Well,
is that anywhere in there? The Les Paul Classic?
No, not unfortunately not. It's actually quite a small product range they've got under the Gibson name here. The Gibson Les Paul Studio was £615.
Bargain.
What's that? That's probably about $900, something like that. Okay. Although actually, no, in the US, it was like dollars for pounds, wasn't it? Usually it was, wasn't it? Yeah. So it's kind of like, it's £600 for a guitar. It would have been $600 for the same guitar in the US kind of thing. So for our US and US listeners, unfortunately, we don't know Canadian dollars and things like that. So sorry about you guys, but I mean, US dollars is the most stable currency. That's why it's used as kind of anyway. Let's try not to go down that rabbit hole. So Gibson Les Paul Standard in black, they don't have a sunburst in this price list. That was £1,021.
Wow.
Why not make it $999? Come on.
I'm sure there was offers on it.
Gibson SG Special, £510. So this would have been around the time you got your first Epiphone, surely, right? 95, 96?
Exactly that. 1994. 95, 96. Yeah.
Which Les Paul was it?
It's the one it's still on the wall behind me. I got a really, what is now quite a rare one. It's a Heritage Sunburst Epiphone Les Paul Classic, it was called. But this one was a limited run that they did in bird's eye maple. So it wasn't a flamed maple top, it was a bird's eye maple top.
I remember you getting that a couple of times. It's a beautiful Epiphone.
Yeah, it is a lovely Epiphone. You could get the bird's eye maple, again, as a limited run a bit more frequently in just kind of like a translucent finish. But it was really rare to get one that was in Heritage Sunburst in bird's eye maple. I think it was about £300 back then, maybe £350.
Yeah, I think you could be right. It isn't listed in here. I mean, the Epiphone Les Paul's standard, just the standard, is £350. You're absolutely right. I've just gone to Anderton's. Anderton's are in here. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah,
Anderton's.
Yeah.
I mean, but the problem is all the prices in here are listed as a deposit and 12 months payments rather than any kind of actual list price. But you can kind of work it out. So an Epiphone Les Paul Classic here was a deposit of £75 and 12 payments of £27, 0% finance. So I don't know what that works out at. Probably around £400, I would imagine.
It's kind of about the same money that you pay now for an Epiphone Les Paul, though, isn't it? Basically,
isn't that incredible? Actually,
yeah, that's pretty cool.
Think about it.
That's pretty cool. When you think about inflation, but when you also think about the quality aspects that I think have gone up. Yes, there's been some rubbish years and some switching between different, manufacturing sites, Korea, China, Indonesia, all that kind of stuff going on. But I think the stuff Epiphone are producing these days is pretty well made out, actually. And the guitars coming out of the Far East are really decent now. And so you're still paying the same kind of money, but for arguably a better guitar these days. So that's cool.
Sure.
That's cool.
Effects. What effects did you have? Did you remember you telling me in an early podcast you had a Zoom or something like that?
I've still got it.
Oh
yeah, man. It's up in the loft somewhere. I need to go and get it.
What model is it?
It was the Zoom 1010.
1010.
The Zoom 1010. It was a small floor-based effects unit. It sounded bloody marvelous. People used to, serious guitarists, much better than I was back in those days, would be like, "Wow, the sound coming out of that thing is incredible," and it really was. It really was.
Yeah, I remember those being reviewed. They were really cute little.
They were
simple effects units, weren't they?
That's it. Yeah, pretty.
Just like these. Rather than kind of having a screen and a user interface, it was like it had like a list of things that you kind of had to follow and press buttons. But the Zoom 1010 in Axmail here was available 159.
159.
Oh, you could put a £21 deposit down and pay £23 for 6 months.
I don't even know what that means. Is that how people used to buy music gear back in the day? Was it all on credit?
And there's an application form in the magazine.
You don't even see that now. You don't even see that now. Imagine that
time when you used to wait for the magazine to come out to see if you could... I mean, imagine the influx of business that these shops used to have when the magazine came out. Yeah. And people would go, "Oh, that guitar's come down in price," and then they'd get on the phone and find out what the stock is, make an order over the phone, or write to them and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I used to do that, mate. I used to, because I lived back in the, I've moved around since, but I've ended up moving back to pretty much the same village that I was living in at that time, having been to a number of places on the way and come back again. But I remember being in my parents' house at the time, getting the magazine, as you describe, and in 1995, 96, going through the back pages of it where all the guitar shops would advertise and calling them up one by one with my pen and my little highlighter going, I can see here in the latest issue, you've got this guitar or this effects pedal or whatever for this much. Have you got it in stock? And, writing a list of who had it and where I might need to kind of travel to go and get it, or they could post it, so that, it all sounds very, very antiquated now, doesn't it? Where you can literally just tell Alexa to put a Gibson Les Paul in your shopping cart and
a
drone will deliver it the next day. It's all a bit. It's all very
well.
very
and this is the thing, right? Going through these magazines they only turned up day before yesterday or yesterday. Anyway, going through them has really made me kind of miss that time where it's so easy now. We're about to have a conversation, aren't we, about the best budget amplifiers for gigging. The things that we found or the things we're looking at, and how easy has it been to find that information?
Oh, mate, dead easy. I did it at 11 o'clock last night before I went to sleep in bed on my iPhone with my super fast internet connection. And literally the filter on, I think, one of the websites I was using just allowed me to do the search. I literally just put in the filters, the price range that I wanted, the wattage that I wanted, and then it just generated an entire list for me with the exact search criteria. It was like cheating. It was cheating, really.
It's almost like you didn't even have to think, isn't it?
They did the thinking for me, and they went, "Here you go. You're after a budget guitar amplifier." I had to apply a degree of common sense, and it generated a list that I've then gone through and gone, "Yeah, I would have that. I would have that. I wouldn't have that. I wouldn't have that." But
this is a crazy thing, right? I've made purchases in the last, I'd say, 10, 15 years of my life as a guitarist based on popping online, listening to reviews, reading reviews, watching videos, listening carefully, and then buying something. Yeah. Back then, if it wasn't in my local guitar shop, it wouldn't even be something I'd consider. I probably wouldn't even be looking, even in a magazine, I could read a review, I could listen to the CD, I could find somewhere I could order it a mail order from. But generally speaking, I'd still go to my local guitar store and be like, have you got a Marshall Valve Stair 8080? No. What's the next thing? We've got a PV Bandit. Okay, I'll try out that PV Bandit, and then you go with that. I still have one of those as well, actually. I still have a PV Bandit now. I might keep my eye out for one. Because I'd probably get one for less than 100 quid. Yeah. And, if I ever went and did just a jam night somewhere, I could just take that instead of a Helix. But anyway, that's another conversation. But anyway, it's been super nostalgic reading through these things. I mean, even things like jam tracks, and the things you can get free for subscribing and stuff like that is so different to how it was. And interviews with dead people, stuff like that. As in they're dead now. They're dead now, I mean.
That's what I mean. That's a really depressing way to track what's changed in 26 years when you thumb through Guitar Magazine and you just go, dead. They're dead. Yeah, they're dead.
Dear. Unbelievable. Sad, anyway, so Kiran, Matt, what are we talking about this week? What's been our challenge for the week?
Right, so we set ourselves a challenge because we've done a few little budget challenges, haven't we?
Yeah.
Throughout the last year, we've done guitars, new or second hand, to a certain budget. We've built rigs, pedal boards and things to a certain budget. But just all of this talk about your move to the Helix, and we were talking last week with Damo as well around amps and stuff that you bring to a studio. What do you bring to a studio, and all of that made me think, actually, do you know what, we haven't really spoken a lot on the show about amplifiers, and I think clearly there's a whole episode that you can do on this, but we thought we'd just kind of focus the attention and keep with a theme that we've been doing, which is actually, because you and I love really good budget gear that performs beyond its price.
Yes.
And we like talking to our listeners about that. And sure, if you want to go and buy a hand-wired, Lazy J or something like that for $2-3 grand, great, absolutely, you're going to get an incredible amplifier to last a lifetime. But what if you are a, jobbing, gigging guitarist playing small pubs and clubs, and you need a reliable gigging amp? Where do you start to get something really decent today in 2022 that is gonna do the business and sound good, right? And how much do you have to spend to get that? And do you know what? To be honest, because I haven't changed my amp for quite a few years now, I wasn't really aware acutely what was on the market, and it's reminded me of a few few things that are on the market. And again, it's almost made me maybe open my wallet and buy something again. I was like, oh, there's some really cool stuff. I know, sorry.
It's
You
so
rolled
easy,
your eyes.
though.
I'm so easy. I haven't yet. But
I know you've been very restrained.
I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get better at not
He
buying too much
says,
stuff.
"I'm trying."
I'm trying. I haven't bought anything for at least a
Do you
few
know what
months.
the image of you sat in front of a wall of guitars saying, "I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get better."
I
It's
am.
fantastic.
I'm
Although saying that,
self-coaching.
they're not all new guitars, I know, but I mean,
No.
last year, I mean, for me, it was so funny last year when you had your little Tokai thing when we were talking about guitars, and all of a sudden you whipped out like 3 Tokais. Yeah, God, just bought these 3 guitars. Just basically what you admitted to is you had like a relapse, didn't you? You basically had kind of like a no, but it was well worth doing. But yeah, I
fell off the wagon big style that one, didn't I? Really, I just
this is the
literally
problem,
went nuts.
right? When we have these conversations where we go, let's look at budget this, budget that, cheap thing.
Yeah.
Like do you remember when we did the £300 pedal board?
Yeah.
And you were kind of like, I might go out and just buy all these pedals.
Just because it's a great pedal board. I want to see what this pedal board really. I mean, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you didn't.
I did buy. No, I did buy some pedals last year.
Yeah.
But not all of the ones that we spoke about. No, Damien went and did that after listening. Well, yeah, the amount of people that I've had comment and say I bought the Wish.com clone after listening to the podcast. I need to write to the manufacturers in China and get some sort of commission going on. But people are happy with it. You know, people are happy.
Absolutely.
It's a great clone.
Absolutely.
And I didn't break it to the world. I heard about it on YouTube, and all I really did was, you know. Anyway, we're going off piste again.
We are going off piste slightly. So, sorry to interrupt this really interesting conversation, but if you've listened this far, then maybe you should subscribe to the Guitar Smarts podcast. Go and do that now, and then come straight back.
I've got a great amp. I've got a great amp, mate.
Well, what's the definition here, right? Is we've said a budget guitar amp for gigging, and that little comment there really kind of dictates to us what we're looking at, right? For gigging, which I think means it has to be capable of a certain amount of volume, headroom. You know, we're looking at 20 watt plus valve amps, you know, maybe 50 to 100 watt plus solid state amps. I think, you know.
I agree. I've gigged with 40 watt solid state amps, and I think it's pushing it.
Yeah.
I think, you know, when you get a drummer on board, and if you're not miking up the back line, I think you've got to be looking at minimum 50 watts, ideally 100 watt in solid state, and then you know you're covered for any pub gig, any small club gig. And if you're not miking up, I think realistically you're going to need that. Otherwise, you're just not going to cut through.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when I had that Trademark 60, that Tech 21 Trademark 60, that was a 60 watt solid state amp, and it had plenty of headroom for the gig.
It did.
But I'd be running the master on it at like halfway, whereas a 40 watt like Fender Deluxe, to get the same volume on, you'd have the master on like 2, 3, something like that. I mean, I know that those Fender amps to have, I think part of the problem with those amps is they don't have, I think they have linear volume ports.
Yeah,
that's right, than linear rather than audio taper, which an audio taper should be, it's logarithmic, isn't it? Because you perceive volume logarithmically as a person. So that's another technical conversation. But yeah, so you do have to account for solid state amps. Generally, they don't have the same power and dynamic range as valve amps. So
but it's just a numbers thing.
Yeah,
it's just a numbers thing, right? And I don't think. I mean, obviously, I say obviously, but I think we need to forego the snobbery of, you have to have a really lovely valve amp to be going out and gigging, and solid state is not pro level enough to be going out and getting a decent sound. That's nonsense. And you and I have both experienced that firsthand. Playing solid state stuff, which if it's sufficiently rated enough with enough grunt in it, can more than handle a gigging situation for a pub and sound superb. And price is a thing, right? Solid state is cheaper than valve. So often, I mean, I don't know if what you set your threshold at in your head, but I thought probably around the £400, $500 mark
I haven't gone above that. I've specifically stayed kind of below that. Yeah.
Which is quite tough, right? Because as soon as you start to go above that and get towards the £800 mark, £1,000 mark, $1,200 mark, then you start to get into the territory of amps that we all know and love and have trusted for years as, reliable gigging workhorses, like, your kind of Vox AC30s type stuff, your Hot Rod Deluxe, your Blues Deluxe type stuff, even some of your kind of Marshall kind of smaller studio version stuff that they're doing nowadays. That's that kind of price range. So all of that kind of stuff is out, really. You can't, and I would say for most pub guitarists, something like a Hot Rod Deluxe or a Blues Deluxe is your kind of standard gigging fare, right? But all of that's off the cards. We're going way less than that. Way less than that.
We are going way less than that. And I've got some interesting. I've managed to get. I've made a list of 4 amps. I don't know if you've kind of just gone for one.
3 or 4. There are more within that price bracket, but there's 3 or 4 that I would look at as serious contenders.
I wonder if we've chosen the same ones. I
wonder.
I bet we haven't.
I wonder. I know where my heart is, and I know what I would buy straight off the bat.
I think I know what you would buy. I don't think I've got what you would buy on my list. But maybe I'm wrong because I think it's over £400. I think the one you probably like, but mine's an equal. My 4 amps are an equal distribution of solid state and valve amps. There's a couple of valve amps I think that are really worth a good look at that price range.
Cool. So let's get into it then, mate. Let's get into it in no particular order. Yeah. Do you want to save the one that you would actually go and purchase yourself if you had to go and spend 400 quid? Do you want to save that one as your last one, and then we'll do like kind of your honourable mentions or just things that you think are really cool in that price bracket that would definitely do the job very admirably. Admirably.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I will actually. Okay, I know which one I'd choose. I think you when you find out which one I choose, you're going to go, what? Why? Oh. But I don't care. I like the fact that I'm choosing this one. Right, so no particular order. So top of my list is the Boss Katana 100 watt Mark II 1x12. 319 quid, something like that. Around just over 300 quid, you'll get it around here. I'm sure that's probably about $400 in the US. But 100 watt solid state amp, that's easily going to do you for any kind of pub gig. Yeah. I think they do a 2x12 version of it. But I've gone for the 1x12 because I think that's a little bit more manageable. I don't think most people really would get the benefit of a 2x12 cab in the kind of gigging situations you'd be using this amp for. I don't see the point of it really. But that is a really, the reason I've gone for that is I've watched a lot of videos on YouTube in the past of, do you know the Andertons guys that do that kind of, sound like for a budget kind of thing? Sound like Van Halen or sound like Slash or whatever. The number of times they go for this Boss Katana amp and it sounds fantastic. So I thought, well, clearly that's well worth a look. So that's top of my list, Boss Katana.
That was on is that top of your list or it's just on your list?
It's just the top of my list, but not because it's the number one choice. It's just first one I've gone for. So
yeah, it was on my list as well, mate. I think that's a really cracking amp. 100 watt solid state. I just, you've got all of that technology in it that is going to be able to give you a whole spectrum of different sounds. Yeah. And by all accounts, its kind of modelling technology does give a very passable, authentic tube sound, and for a lot of different styles.
From what I understand, I think a lot of it isn't. Some of it's digital, some of it isn't. I think some of the drive is analog. Some of the drive pedals that you can choose internally are still the analog versions of. I think they've basically just done a really big PCB inside of there that's replicating a load of actual Boss pedals. But I mean, the reviews are fantastic. I've got a caveat. I've never played through one. In fact, there's only one amp in my list I've ever played through. But I've heard them all, and I've been impressed. What I have heard played through all of these, I've been impressed. So and same, mate. And I think that's testament to the way in which we purchase gear nowadays, which is actually you kind of order it and try it out, and then if you don't like it, you return it. So I've heard these amps either played by somebody else at a gig situation, or watched enough of the YouTube stuff and read enough of the reviews. I've played some of them, but
the Boss Katana stuff you can't go wrong with. That's cracking value. 300 and something quid, 350 quid I found it for. That's a cracking amp. That will get you through many gig situations, and it's got that Boss reliability and kudos as well. I don't think there would be no shame in turning up with a Boss Katana 100 watt to a small pub gig and be like, yeah, cool, nice amp.
I agree entirely, and I'm sure it would be a pleasure to use.
Cool.
So there we go. What about you, man? So you said this is on your list as well?
Yeah, that was on my list. I thought that was a cracking amp. Then, what else did I particularly like the look of? It is, it's quite a cheap one, but I think it's a cracking versatile amp, and I have played through one of these before, and it always surprises me actually how much of a decent amp it is for the money. And that's the Fender Champ 100 watt combo. So it's a full fat kind of Fender solid state amp. It's got 100 watts of power, and I think it's just a really, really cool looking amp as well. It's kind of got that blackface deluxe kind of look to it, which is brilliant. It's a 2x12, so it looks like a serious piece of kit, even though it's from the Fender Champ kind of stable, which are often those kind of smaller, more cheaper amps. So its clean channel is that kind of black face clean, which is just going to take pedals really well. But then it's got modeling built into it now as well. So it's got some kind of different. It will do everything from kind of tweedy sounds through to kind of martially, even sort of pseudo metal sounds in it. So I think it's a pretty cool amp for the staggeringly low price of £299. I mean, that's pretty decent for a Fender solid state 100 watt 2x12 with 5 amp models built into it, 2 channels. That's pretty cool.
That is incredible value, isn't it? That is incredible value. And those amps are fantastic, actually. Yeah. I don't think, I've got a similar amp in my list, not the same one, but absolutely fantastic amps for the money. I've got friends that have gigged those professionally. Whether it's because they like the amp itself or because they've used it as like a power amp stand, a cheap way of just having like a power amp and a speaker. But another thing I should point out at this stage, that's 2 solid state amplifiers we've gone for. There are advantages to having a solid state amplifier over a valve amp, right? It's not always a case of does it sound as good as a valve amp? Well, solid state technology has some advantages. The solid state tends to be a little bit faster in like audio reproduction. That's why some people that really like funk and stuff like that, a lot of people actually like the sound of going into a solid state amplifier. And then you've got people like Eric Gales, who's a fantastic blues guitarist, who's an incredible guitarist actually, and his signature amp from DV Mark is a solid state amplifier. I think it's called the Raw Dog. Absolutely fantastic solid state amplifier. So it's well worth looking at solid state amps, not just as an old cheap alternative to a valve amp you can't afford. They are. It's great. It's good technology now.
For sure.
It has been for a while. So I actually quite like to play through one of those the Fender Champ 100s.
Yeah, they're good. I've played through one of them and I was quite impressed actually. Tried it at a guitar shop in Denmark Street just before lockdown. Just I was trying out a guitar and I plugged into that and I was like, wow, this is a really cool looking blackfacey type valve amp. And it was like, no, it's just a solid state champ thing. I was like, whoa, it's really cool. Really good.
Cool, man. Right, I'm going to move on to my next choice, which literally just flies under the £400 kind of budget I set myself by £1. But it's a fully fledged valve amp, a bit of a classic as well. Now it's a Marshall DSL 401, which has been around for years. I remember trying one out in Anderton's when I was an ACM student, like nearly 20 years ago now, and really versatile Marshall amplifier. I think it had some great cleans, great Marshall drive sounds. Obviously, I guess some people would look at that as the competitor to the Fender Deluxe in a way. But 40 watt, properly giggable Marshall DSL, combo amplifier for £399 now. That is a fantastic.
That's a good price. because I thought they were still around £450-500. Those any of those DSL Marshall stuff. That's a good price you've managed to find that for.
I think it was in Guitar
here
in the UK for $399, which is a really good deal. But that is a serious amplifier. That's a great rock amplifier as well. You'll get a lot of serious Marshall-based tones out of an amp like that. Definitely worth a look if you're in a proper rock band. That's a good amplifier to look at for not a lot of money.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. I didn't find that one. I'm gutted. That's that's a good price. I was looking for a Marshall. I think you can certainly go for like the MG series Marshall, which is fully solid state. You've got the 50 watt MG FX, which is, I think it might just get you through a decent pub gig. But I've got the Marshall MG 100 watt combo as my backup kind of amp.
Those are great amps.
Which I use. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's got all of the built-in effects and stuff like that, which I don't really use. But if you want to get a passable Marshall tone, I would definitely say the MG 100 will get you through a gig. I really do miss the Valve State series from Marshall though.
Yeah.
Do you know what they had a tone to them which is much better than the MG stuff. It's a shame they did away with that kind of hybrid Valve preamp and then solid state power amp thing, because it did create a really, really nice sound. You can get also if you're looking for a Marshall tone, the kind of Code series that Marshall are doing now.
Yeah.
So, which is again their kind of version of modeling, where they've kind of partnered with Softtube and to create basically all of the Marshall tones from their back catalogue in a single amp with a bunch of effects as well. I think those are pretty cool. I didn't think I'd ever see Marshall do like a kind of modeling amp, but they have. They've gone for it, and they're pretty cool. Would it get you through a gig, the 50 watt version? Not.
I think you'd struggle. I think you'd struggle.
I think you probably would.
Yeah.
I think you probably would. So yeah, I'd go for your one in terms of Marshall. Or if not that, if you're not that fussed about the Marshall badge and you can't and you want something that's slightly different, but you want those kind of tones, Blackstar do a lovely 100 watt combo, which is a 2x12. It's called the Stereo 100 combo, and Blackstar do some really lovely tones. You can get some really good Marshall tones from the Blackstar amps, and that's £375. So just $450.
Fantastic value. I used to have a
really
Blackstar.
Good, right?
Yeah,
did you? I didn't know that.
I used to have a Blackstar only for a brief while. I bought one of the modelling amps. It was like it wasn't very expensive at all. It was I think it was the ID Core 50 watt. It was just about loud enough for gigging. I did gig with it a couple of times, but actually got rid of it fairly quickly. Not because I didn't like it, but I dropped on a really great deal through a friend for a Fender Hot Rod Deluxe, which I owned for a few years. But it was the Hot Rod Deluxe that made me go, I'm sick of carrying a heavy amp around.
They're heavy, aren't they? They
a modelling
heavy.
kind of thing. Which is when sorry, which one were we talking about? The Blackstar. Yeah, the Blackstar amps.
So this is the Blackstar ID Core, same as you had them. So this is the ID Core, but it's the 100 watt stereo version for 370
way better.
for 375. Yeah, just a bit more poke to it, right? And you'd feel comfortable that you've got enough in the tank to really push your sound.
Get your trousers flapping a little bit more, wouldn't it?
Nice. But it's not the one I've chosen. It's not the one that excites me. I mean, it's a very commendable amp. All of the ones we've mentioned, you just go, that's brilliant. That's a great, chunky, reliable amp for that money, and you'd be very happy to turn up and with any of those at a pub gig. But it's still not the one that floats my boat.
Well, my next one, actually, do you know what? I've gone for another Marshall, and it's another Marshall valve amp. Again, a great deal from
Where are you finding these Marshall valve amps?
Guitar, the Marshall Origin 20 watt combo valve amp. So it's only 20 watt but 20 watt. But it's a proper valve amp, and that's going to be loud enough for a gig, for a pub gig.
Yeah,
you're going to drive it pretty hard. But these came out a couple of years ago, and kind of the plan from Marshall was that it was kind of meant to be a bit more like the classic Marshall JTM
like
plexi kind of tone.
Yeah.
So
not
very high gain. That DSL 40. That DSL 40 that I mentioned last time, you're going to get some pretty high gain sounds out of that. This Origin 20, it's barely going to go past crunch, all the way up.
I've played one.
Have you played one?
Yeah, I've played one of those down at the guitar store. It's really good. It's really good.
I imagine if you want to just chug along playing AC/DC all night, you're going to absolutely love that amp. It's
Led Zeppelin, it's AC/DC, it's kind of, even on the second channel kind of wound up, I'm pretty sure it's 2-channel. It still doesn't get that dirty. It's got a boost switch or something on it that I remember, which kind of saturates it a bit.
Yeah.
But it takes pedals really well. So
that's the thing that I've heard.
Stick a drive pedal in front of it and wind it up, and it's a great sounding amp. It really is.
And for 399 quid at the moment. That's only at the moment from, I don't think it was at that price on some of the other places I looked, but on Guitar, I saw it for £399, so probably $400-500, something like that. I mean,
it's the one that's got the old school kind of grey grill cover with the older style Marshall logo.
Exactly that, yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's cool. It's really cool.
Very cool amp, and that's a great choice. I think go gigging with that, you're going to have a lot of fun.
And 20 watts enough in a valve amp to get.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. You're going to be. It depends how loud a band you're in. If you're in a pretty loud band, you're probably not going to have much clean headroom.
No.
So it depends on the kind of band. But I've gigged with 20 watt valve amps before and had plenty of headroom. I had that Jet City head and cab one just for a brief time.
Very really brief
great.
time.
And that was an 18 watt head, I think, or 18 or 20 watt head. Okay. And I had nowhere near max volume, and it was plenty loud enough.
Oh, okay, cool. That's cool.
Yeah. So anyway, I only have one more choice.
Me too, mate.
What's yours?
So mine is an amp which I'd forgotten about, right? So when I was trying to make the leap from solid state into valve amps and getting into proper pedals and all of that a good few years back, I was thinking, right, what's going to be my first foray into valve amps? And at the time, the prospect of spending £800-900 on a valve amp, complicated by the fact of I didn't really know how to bias valves. I wasn't really sure about the reliability of valve amps and whether it was just going to, let me down. I was completely solid state up until then. I was thinking, oh, right, where do I start? And I tried to get hold of this amp that I'm going to mention as my first purchase, and I couldn't find it anywhere. They didn't have them in stock. It was supposed to be a kind of readily available item, but nowhere had it in stock, and I was getting impatient. And so I went into my local guitar shop and just started trying amps, and ultimately fell in love with the Fender Blues Deluxe and just went, well, yeah, this is why people rave about valve amps. Yeah. I'll have this one, and that was it. And it's only through doing this research on this last night that I remembered this amp and went, oh my God, yeah, I really wanted this amp. And it is an amp by a manufacturer called Bugera, which is from the Behringer stable.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right. So these amps, it's now probably been available for about 8-9 years now on the market. So they're available now. You can buy them, and the technology has come into its own. Have you seen these?
I've heard of them. I've heard of Bugera. I think
have a look at this on your computer. It's the one that I'm thinking about is the Bugera. So Bugera, and it's the V55. It's called. So if you get yourself
Bugera V55. Okay, got it.
Right.
Ooh,
so
that's a pretty looking thing.
It is a pretty looking thing, right? This is all valve, so full valve, right? 2-channel. It's got 12. It's got 3 12AX7 tubes and 2 6L6s, which kick out a huge amount. It's 55 watts of valve power. It is just a really, really cool vintage voiced valve amp, very similar to the kind of Hot Rod Deluxe, Blues Deluxe type thing. 1x12. The speaker is by another kind of Behringer brand, Turbo Sound. They make really nice British Celestion-esque speakers. So it's got that preloaded into it. And the thing that really appealed to me about this amp back in the day and why it still appeals to me now is, and I don't know why other manufacturers haven't done this, Behringer and Bagheera as their subsidiary brand have really invested in making the whole tube element of this amp simple. So where they've spent the technology and innovation is basically it's got this system within it that manages your tubes in terms of how they are supplied with current and power, so that it is constantly biasing them to make sure they're getting the exact right current draw. Which has an effect of twofold. There's a little display on the back of the amp which tells you how your tubes are performing and whether they're in optimal condition and all of that. But it's actively managing the tubes. So the lifespan that you get out of the tubes is supposed to be like tenfold what you would get off a normal valve amp, because it's constantly looking at what current voltage and things are coming into the amp and managing it so the tubes are getting the optimum kind of
that is so cool
that they need. So that's really cool. The second thing is you can access and change the tubes on it at your heart's content, and because it has this technology in it, you can literally chuck unmatched tubes and mix and match into the amp, and it auto biases them for you. So you don't need to take your amp to an amp tech to say, I need to get a new set of matched tubes, and can you bias it all for me? And they have to strip down the chassis and kind of risk their life getting electrocuted to kind of do all this. You literally just chop and change your tubes like a light bulb, and the amp takes care of biasing them for you, so you can put whatever tubes in and mix and match to your heart's content. How cool is that?
Sold.
And it's 350 quid.
That's crazy, isn't it? That is crazy when you think about
for
it.
Self-biasing
amp that is, you can do what you want with in terms of valve configuration, which is huge, right? You can change the sound of it drastically. And I'm just looking at a picture of the back of it now. It's got these cool little lights that light up if the tubes need replacing. And also, reassuringly, the picture of the back shows two very large transformers in the circuit, which is a huge thing in guitar amps, not just the valves, but the transformers are what produce the power and really drive the power amp section, and that's a big part of the sound. So having reassuringly heavy, big-looking transformers is amazing. Isn't
it a cool amp, mate? Go and check these out. They are really superb. That is every day of the week a very beautiful gigging amp. Bags of headroom. It takes pedals like an absolute pro. You would use this like a Hot Rod Deluxe or a Fender Blues Deluxe, where you'd probably go through on the clean channel because it's awesome, and you just use it for pedals. The drive channel is there, but it's a kind of, again, very much like the Fender drive channels. It's a bit crunchy, it's a bit bright, but the clean channel all the way, whack some pedals in front of it, headroom for days. You've spent 350 quid on a really cool amp with a decent speaker already preloaded into it. And if you don't fancy 55 watts of power because you think that's ridiculous, they do a 22 watt version, which is identical, but just a tad smaller, and that's like £300. So you could have a 22 watt all valve version with all the same features.
Still going to be giggable, really, in the right situations.
It's a tough call, isn't it? So there's some videos of Josh Smith playing the 22 watt ones on YouTube. Yeah, he thinks they're decent amps. And he's
because I've gigged before with like a Blues Junior, Fender Blues Junior, which doesn't fall in a price bracket, but that's like what, 15 or 18 watt? It might be 22.
15,
I don't know.
15 watt is a Blues Junior.
Watt Blues Junior, and that is,
and it's six to £700. That's between £600 and £700, depending if you get one. And I would highly advise getting one with a Jensen loaded speaker in it rather than the Eminence
the
speaker.
Tweed one.
Get the Tweed one if you can. Brilliant. But that's double the price. So mate, I would check these out. I'm jonesing for one of these now.
I'm excited for you. I mean, I say excited for you because I know you're jonesing for one. But I mean, I really love the look of that amp. I mean, it's a fantastic amp, but man.
And you know what? It keeps me in my now my comfort driving lane of valve amp, single channel. Just use the single channel, put your pedal board in front of it, have fun, and don't worry about it in terms of all the modeling and downloading software and patches and all of the stuff that you're loving with your Helix that I just can't be bothered with anymore because I've turned into an old fart at some point and just want to go back to traditional stuff. Having been one of the first early adopters ever of a Variax and Line 6 pod floor unit, and saying to everyone that this was the future, I've come full circle and I just want to use cool little valve amps. But these are good. Anyway, I feel like I am selling Bugera amps on behalf of them and not getting paid for it.
Well, I hope you're on commission.
But yeah, check them out. They're cool. They're very cool. Very cool.
Everyone, please, just who's listening, check out. I mean, they look the part. First off, they clearly, they're going to sound the part as well by the looks of it. And I'm going to check those out right after this recording, mate, for sure.
They're cool, aren't they? It's got a little Pento triode thing as well on the back where you can kind of squash and compress the signal a little bit and just change the dynamics of it. There's plenty of little bits of innovation and cool stuff on that amp. Anyway, enough about those.
Very cool.
What? So I'm judging by your reaction clearly that your number one choice was not a Bugera V55. What was it?
My number one choice was not a Bugera. I think you guys. I kind of, I'm not saying this is a serious choice, but it's not a serious amp.
But
I love a bargain, right? And I think you may struggle to take me seriously, and I certainly think our listeners will not take me seriously in the slightest. Okay. Let me preface this with a story. Right, there's a guitarist I'm a big fan of here in the UK. He's not a very well known guitarist, but he's a guy called Nat Martin, he's a guitar teacher in kind of the southeast, and he plays. He's taught at ACM in the past, and he's played for various blues guitarists. He's very much a Robin Ford, jazz, Larry Carlton style guy, very accomplished. Cool. Incredible guitarist. Go on, check him out. A guy called Nat Martin. He plays guitar on the blues circuit here in the UK for the Stevie Watts Organ Trio, and they go out with a singer called Alice Armstrong, who's also she's nominated for some blues awards this year, and she also records and writes with Matt Long, who we've had on the show. So kind of the circle we're looking at here. The British blues scene. Nat Martin's one of those guys. And he recently, I was following him on Instagram, and last year he went into hospital with appendicitis, and it came back out, and obviously he's all stitched up and he can't do any lifting and carrying for a while, but he's got gigs. And he went out to buy a cheap, lightweight guitar amp that he could use just as a clean platform for his rig that's super lightweight. And he bought this, and it's a Fender. You said the Fender Champ 100. Yeah. This is the one even further down from that. This is the Fender Champ 50 XL.
Right.
And this is only £189 brand new. It's less than 200. It's less than half the budget, right? It's just a very, very simple solid state Fender amp. It's just got an input, volume 1 for one channel, and a gain channel with gain, volume, and a voice selection. So you can kind of have a modelled voice. It doesn't even have a mid control, which it's a budget amp when it's just got treble and bass. Yeah. And then you can select an effects, so you'd probably just have the reverb. And that's it. And it's marketed as a practice amp, but it's a 50 watt practice amp. And he bought it because he was sufficiently, I thought, well, if you're sufficiently impressed to buy that and go out and do gigs with, it must be good. And then he posted some videos of him playing through it at home, and it just sounds so good as a clean platform.
Yes.
I kind of I guess I'm just trying to make a point here, which is the cheap stuff really does sound a lot better than it used to. And actually, this isn't really a first choice amp, but for somebody like me who has this Helix setup with the FR, there's a part of me that's tempted to put 190 quid down on an amp like this to put to one side. Because, if I did want to rock up at a pub gig somewhere, maybe I love the Helix. I really do love this choice I've made. But I really can see there being some gigs in the future that I do that. Maybe I just want to rock up with a guitar and an amp and just plug straight in, or just have a drive pedal in front of something that sounds good clean. And I was just astounded by the kind of, the value per pound of cost of this amp and what it sounds like and what you get with it, the different voicings, the different effects that you can have on it. So that's my number one choice. Bizarrely, it's not like your number one choice, that Bigera, is super bang for buck, right at the, right fairly high up in the price range that we're looking at. And for me, I've chosen this because it represents the other end of that price range we're looking at, which is, we're saying maximum 400 quid, but actually you can get a £200 amp that, quite frankly, if you're a decent enough guitarist, you make it sound good. It's good enough that you can make it sound good and believable. Nobody's going to be there going, his amp sounds a bit rubbish. That's the choice for me. I
think that's a great
I love
choice.
Things like this. I love amps like this.
Do you know what, though?
Cheap stuff.
What I love that we've done, again, in a really unplanned, unrehearsed way, is we've actually gone and chosen what would work for us with our current rigs and our current setups, right? If we were going to go and buy another amp and not blow the budget on it, but get something really cool and really workable for us. For me, I think I might have mentioned it once or twice, I'm currently, feeling really wedded to my pedal board setup and a nice, medium to high rated valve amp. So kind of around the 40 watt kind of bracket, 30 to 40 watt valve amp, where I can use it as a pedal platform and I can get that sound that I want. And so for me, that Bigera fits the bill perfectly, right? Because I don't want to go and spend another £800,000-900,000 on another heavy valve amp that's gonna sit there being used as occasionally, because I've already got that. But I would really seriously contemplate going and spending £300 on maybe the V22, the 22 watt version as a nice backup, because I don't need another really loud amp. So even though I've said the V55, I would probably get the V22 version and be really happy and know that I've got a lovely backup amp there that's going to be a bit smaller than what I've got. So for a jam night or a small pub where I know it's a small pub, then brilliant. Chuck that in the car. Whereas for you, you're really wedded to your Helix setup now and you really like that, but you'd like the flexibility to just maybe, if you're going to a jam night or doing a small pub, to have something that you know will sound decent, and then you don't have to take all your full Helix setup. And that would fit the bill perfectly. So I think actually that's a really good place that we've netted out. So people have got some different options to consider based on what they're favouring at the moment, what they've currently got in their rig, and where some of these amps might fill a nice little niche for them as something else that they can call upon. And I've had that discussion a few times now with people that are moving over to the Helix rig, where they go, but I'd still like to keep an amp as well, just in case for something I might need an amp for. And that's what you've covered beautifully there with that 50 watt Fender. That would be admirable for a little small pub gig.
It would. And I think also, it'd be it's small enough that I could sit it in the corner in here without worrying about how much space it's taking up. And there are some times where like, I'm working here, I'm in between meetings at work or whatever, and then the wife's gone out to pick the son up from school, whatever. There's this little 15-minute moment in the day where nobody's at home, and I think I'd just love to just plug in and just play something for 10 minutes, just have a noodle around. And obviously that's the disadvantage to the Helix. Can't really just set it up and plug it in, get headphones in or plug it into my speakers and stuff and start noodling around and stuff like that. Sometimes I do miss having something that I can just plug in with a clean
just
sound, a bit of reverb, and just
yeah.
noodle for 10 minutes, flick a switch on or off. So something like that is what you've hit the nail on the head. Actually, I hadn't even thought about that. We've chose things that really fit us right now. You know, I've chosen something that fits right now what I think is the only space in my kind of gear, you know, collection. And same for you, you know, it's something that is really working for you right now. Awesome.
I mean, at that price as well, mate, that's cheaper than like a Spark amp for a little home practice amp, but you could take that out and do a little pub gig with it as well if you needed to.
That's it.
I think you should go and buy one of those, mate. I think that's going to sit very nicely next.
We both know which one's going to actually do it.
I'll talk myself out of it at some point. But,
I've got one more very quick honourable mention actually as well. But it's more of a product announcement. Did you know Line 6 have just brought out a new range of amps?
Ooh, breaking news! No, I
literally only found out about it this week. So Line 6 have released a new range of amps called the Catalyst, and they're modelling amps. I think they're more like the Spider amps kind of thing. Quite simple, basic to use, but it's the first amps they've done that use the HX range of sounds. So there's a lot of Helix technology in those amps, but they're a bit like the Spider in how you have a rotary dial for like clean, crunch, and stuff like that. One to look at, because you can get a 100-watt 1x12 version of the Catalyst for £339.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Catalyst ones, but I know you could. I know, and I'm surprised it didn't feature on either of our lists. Actually, you can get the 100-watt Spider combo for in that same price bracket, and they are brilliant amps. But wow, superseded now by the latest versions from Line 6. Cool, man. Yeah, good mention.
Fantastic. Yeah. What a great conversation. I feel buoyed in this storm that we're having right now, surrounded by trees and things flying around. I'm surprised. I'm just looking out my garden now. All my fencing panels are still in place, which is great, but it's crazy out there. Yeah,
we've got red alert weather warnings across the UK today. There is a storm brewing, and I must say, I don't know if it will come through on the recording, but it has been absolutely blowing a gale out there.
Yeah, if you do hear some strange whistles and things in the recording, apologies. It's Storm. What's the name of the storm this week?
Eunice.
Eunice, that's it. Storm Eunice.
Storm Eunice is in full rage.
Yeah, 100-mile-an-hour winds and things.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. Stay safe.
Yeah. So what are you up to this week, Matt? You've said you've got some practice to do tonight.
Oh, yes. Tonight is going to be some intense practicing going on, ready for band practice tomorrow, but very much looking forward to packing up the car, throwing a guitar in there. I think it's going to be the American Fender Deluxe Strat that's going with me tomorrow, because it's got the 2 single coils and a humbucker there.
So that silver one with the black pickguard. That's a beaut.
That's coming tomorrow. That's going to be the instrument of choice, and my pedal board and Fender amp, and then we're going to go play some function stuff in the rehearsal studio tomorrow. Make some noise, meet some new band members, and go from there. So, and then do some more guitar repairs next week, and the rest of things that happen in my life. Yeah, how about you, mate?
Well, I mean, I'm hoping to play some more guitar this week, do a bit of noodling around, do some more experimenting with this new Helix firmware that's out that I've uploaded. Sounds good so far. Cool. Some of the new options that are available. I do a bit of guitar practice as well. I think I haven't got any gigs coming up anytime soon, so I'll just be noodling around trying to get back into doing a bit of practice. But work is mad at the moment, and really kind of heavily into doing some DIY and getting cracking again with kind of the house renovation, because we're pretty much done. We've just got like the kitchen to do, and we're just doing things like we're almost at the point we need to redecorate some of the stuff we started with, kind of thing. So busy enough, but I'm looking forward to another good week.
Fantastic, mate. Well, look, love the chat today. Hopefully it won't cost us too much in our bank accounts, and we'll catch up again next week and see what's happened. You're going to retire off to the lounge with your total guitar issue.
The lounge, or maybe the lounge, the bathroom, maybe. I don't know. And I'm going to go and read some more Total Guitar magazine from 1996.
Brilliant.
Amazing.
Have fun, buddy.
All right, buddy. Have a cracking week. I'll speak to you next week.
Cheers, mate.
All the best, bud. Ta-da. Thanks so much for listening again this week. I hope you've enjoyed this show. Like I said at the beginning, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time. As from now on, we're going to be a bi-weekly show rather than every week. But if you like what you hear, then remember, as always, subscribe and like, share it with your friends. Let's get this podcast into the ears of more people and help to increase our reach. Check out the description for some of the links to some interesting pages, our social media pages, etc., etc. Really, really can't thank you enough for coming back each week and listening to Kiran and myself talk. And if you've got anything to say and you want to add anything to the conversation, feel free to get in touch and reach out to us on our social media pages. Come and give us a shout, come and tell us what you think, give us your opinion, and if we've missed anything or got anything wrong, feel free to tell us. We will happily give you a shout out on the show and give you our thanks. Anyway, that's enough from me. Have a cracking week and we'll see you soon. Take care.